Welcome back to another Wednesday, and Wednesdays have definitely grown in my heart. I don't know if that's the right expression in English, but I like Wednesdays now. It's a really relaxed day where I just do my favorite video, the World Chess Championship Series 1. And today we're talking about the Iron Wall, aka Tigran Petrosian, and his opponent Boris Spassky. Spassky is a sweetheart. That's my opinion about him, and he's known as a universal player. Meanwhile, Petrosian definitely the strategic and defensive god of the World Chess Champions. I mean, he was definitely quite a fearful opponent, and it wasn't easy to break through his defense. And without further ado, let's start with the match. Obviously, Petrosian beat Botvinnik, and Spassky won the candidates tournament. And this is game number 7 of their 1966 match. We have Boris Spassky with the white pieces and Tigran Petrosian with the black pieces. This is the Torre attack, basically a London but with bishop g5 that Spassky is gonna play, and Spassky is gonna try a little bit of a different setup. He's gonna try this pawn structure, and this has been played before, knight d7, but usually the most popular move here is bishop takes on e7 nowadays, because after queen e7 you get to play this f4 move. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? You went for d takes on e5 to play f4, and then maybe look for something here with the queen. Of course, black is maybe just gonna want to go castle's queen side and not king side, because of all the attacking potential that white possesses. Instead of that, Spassky chooses bishop f4, which has been tried since then, but with little success for white. But did Spassky crack a weird code and find a loophole in the preparation? We're gonna find out. Queen c7, logical move, and again, definitely, white has a lot of forces here staring down at this king side, but if black just manages to simply not castle king side, which is not that hard, considering the fact that he can pretty chill in a pretty chill manner castle queen side, he's gonna be fine. And not only fine, this is not looking good for white, if you know what I mean. a4. So when you feel like it's slipping away a little bit, you gotta create some counterplay. But Petrosian closes everything down, and with a6 move, the play on the queen side is 100% dead for the rest of the game. There's only one player that can activate the queen side ever again, and that is Petrosian with the move d4 at some point in the future if he wants to open up the bishop. He's the only one that can do such a thing, because the thing is, if you play b5, I play a5. If you play a5, I play b5. And that's it, right? You have this weird tension between the pawns. So Spassky says, okay, fine, my attack has failed. Okay, let's maybe try to save this through defense. So he tries to defend, but now here's the thing, right? a5, b5, I told you about that. Rook d1, bishop goes back, right? You're looking for like maybe an activation, maybe you're trying to play something with the queen. The bishop move, bishop back is definitely a versatile move. And knight h2. But here's the thing, the knight used to guard this, and so Petrosian is gonna take that, and he's gonna sacrifice the exchange, because these pawns are stronger than that rook would have ever been, and that knight guarded that pawn. And all things considered, Spassky plays e4. e4 you cannot take, really nice trap, because if takes, this is checkmate. So, of course, Petrosian sees that, he plays bishop to d6, and now just trades off the bishops, and here pushes the rook back, and now f5, and it's all over. At this point, it's all over, and just to nicely illustrate, f4, the queen just gets attacked and goes back to b1, and now g3, and you can already see what's coming, h3. Spassky tries to get out of the way a little bit with the king, but it's impossible. e4, if you take the pawn, now f3, and this is literally checkmate. So rook to d1 is tried. If you take now, this is actually lost for black, but knight g4. And knight g4 sets up some really nasty things here. So you have to take the knight, but now f3. And even though you're down a rook, this is checkmate, and it's impossible to stop. And Spassky resigned here because after rook h2, queen h6. Good luck stopping this checkmate. That's what I'm gonna say. Moving on to game number 10 of this match. The colors are now reversed. Petrosian has the white pieces and Spassky has the black pieces. So let's see what opening Petrosian is gonna play. Well, he's gonna set up in like a Catalan fashion. Meanwhile, Spassky is gonna set up in like a King's Indian fashion. The whole difference being that Spassky is playing like a little bit more on the defense and counterattack, while Petrosian is playing the standard setup because Spassky kind of wants to push maybe e6, maybe knight goes back, and just stay flexible. So therefore, Petrosian plays d5, knight a5, and this is definitely a variation. I mean, it's a little bit worse, slightly worse for black because this knight is not really where it's supposed to be, and really popular moves are knight d2 and b3. Both basically do the same thing. They defend this pawn on c4, but knight d2 allows for b4 to be a threat, therefore c5. c5 stops b4, otherwise the knight would have been trapped, and then queen c2. Queen c2, a normal move to play in these variations, and now there have been a variety of moves tried here. There has been rook b8 tried to prepare b5, as for example rook b8, and now b3 or something b5, or b5 right away. b5 right away is quite interesting. C takes, and here you would take the pawn. Let's say knight takes, and now you basically have bishop f5, e4, and okay, bishop goes back to d7. Let's say knight comes back, or maybe a4, and you can choose what to do with your position. Definitely quite the nice variations, but simply Spassky chooses e5. e5, if you take en passant, of course, all my problems are solved. You don't want to do that. e5, b3. b3, and then e4. This is very standard. And now f5, also again, really principled moves in these openings. And now we have this trade. And knight goes back. The knight goes back. Also bishop b2 would have been like an okay variation. The knight goes back, but this is still fine. The only problem is it allows b5, and not only b5, e4. And this is really interesting. Obviously you don't want to take the knight and lose the rook, so bishop to b2 is played. You take, bishop takes, and now knight e5. And the thing is, you don't want to take this pawn because now I take your knight. And here after knight to e5, that's the difference between, for example, Petrosian and like a normal player. A normal player would have played back bishop g2 back, which is not a bad move, but it allows b takes on c4, b takes, and now right you just take the pawn. So that's why Petrosian played bishop back to e2, and that guards the pawn. f4 now by Spassky, and he's getting a little bit adventurous, and he manages to trick Petrosian, but the position is so complex. You see, taking with the pawn is not the best thing because there's a crazy move here that Spassky doesn't find. It's rook takes on f4. That's why the move doesn't work, because now after rook takes, queen g5 check, king h1, queen takes. Okay, that's pretty clear. Knight c3. How are you surviving this one? Well, it has to do with this pawn. Rook f1, queen e3, and then you cannot really take this knight d to e4. Let's say you're trying to look for something here. Bishop h3, I'm attacking your rook. Rook g1 check, king h8, rook g3. It seems like you're on to something, but queen h6, and everything is defended. Knight g5, but bishop f5, right? And then you take back, and then the position is really complicated, but it's somehow manageable for black here. Black has enough chances in this position. Instead of that, Spassky goes bishop h3 right away, which is still okay. But now we have another exchange sacrifice. And Spassky gets the flashbacks, and he's like, whoa, am I lost again? Knight g6, bishop g4, knight takes. And in fact, he is. But can you find the winning move? The winning move that Petrosian played. We have 3 seconds to do so. 3, 2, 1. Rook takes f4, rook takes f4. Bishop e6 check. And that's it. I mean, knight takes on f4 looked like it stopped all the problems. But in a second exchange sacrifice, look at that. I mean, rook f7 is forced because if you move the king, I mean, you're just getting checkmated or you lose a lot of material. Oops, you take the pawn here. You don't want to allow. Because if this, now you can just play queen h5 check. If you go back, now you have this. So yeah. If queen g7, king e8, now you don't have any more checks. Right? Because you don't move the king, you go back with the rook. There's a lot of nuances, and if you're not careful, like some moves I'm just automatically making in my brain without checking, and it's not so good. So you know, there's a fine line I'm trying to underline here. Like these top players, they really knew what they were doing, and they just look at that. Petrosian doesn't just take here and tries to butcher the position. He first takes the pawn. He realizes he's in no trouble here, and now he just takes, right? Because rook takes, and queen h8. What a beautiful! I mean, what a beautiful ending. Honestly, what a beautiful ending. Like takes, queen h8 check, and Spassky resigned because now he would be up a piece. You don't have to go for checkmate at this level. You can just be up a piece and win, right? So now comes game number 13, and it's like, okay. Why are you showing us these games? Isn't Petrosian just destroying Spassky? Well, maybe. Or maybe not. I'm not gonna tell you the colors, you know, I like to do that sometimes. I'm just gonna present you the game. It's gonna be a Caro-Kann defense, and I'm just gonna say, this is the Spassky variation of the Caro-Kann. And, you know, historically speaking, if you play your own variation, you have a 99.9% chance of winning the game. Doesn't matter how bad the variation is. That's why I always try to play my variation, but somehow I'm an exception to this rule. Anyway, coming back to our position here, you can get kind of like the classical Caro-Kann feel, where with h4, h5 being played, I've also had a similar game go like this, where my pawns here were a little bit worse. I mean, not worse, but I didn't have that much mobility with them, but I was trying to make a living on the queen side. And that's what Spassky is gonna try to stop. I just revealed the colors. Oops, by accident. Okay, no problem. Bishop takes on f6, queen c4, and queen to b6 now. So basically, white is trying to put pressure on the pawn, maybe set up something here, and meanwhile, of course, black is trying to defend against that pressure. b4. Why not bishop e3, for example? This would have been an okay move, but it allows for the liquidation move. Like maybe 8 takes on b3 would have been better. It allows for this. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that, I mean, Spassky just didn't see a point in playing this position. Because it's a draw, right? So that's why he was careful and he played b4. Knight goes back. And now again, taking the pawn is fine, but for some reason Spassky doesn't do that. I suppose because he did not maybe like the fact that this pawn is weak, so he played knight e4 first, right, instead of taking, and then knight goes back, rook e1, and now he's finally setting it up. Queen goes back to b3, everything is defended, and now he's gonna go for it. c3. Petrosian sacrifices the exchange again. Is this gonna be another win? He takes the pawn, and his position is honestly not looking that bad. And this is gonna be a long one. This is gonna be a long endgame. Bishop takes, b takes on a5, queen takes on a5. Queen comes back to c2, but Petrosian is asking some really tough questions here, and after this queen trade, it's gonna be hard for Spassky to break through. I mean, Spassky has a rook for a knight and a pawn, and this is a passed pawn, but Spassky's pawns are not looking that good in this position. Rook e4, knight e5, bishop f2, and knight f6, and this is gonna be a very slow maneuvering game. Now I'm just gonna skip a little bit through all the moves. I'm just gonna focus on the essentials. Basically, Petrosian tried to close this bishop down, and Spassky tried to put some pressure here. King to d3, really essential move. Knight goes to g4, and now there was a possibility here. Why didn't Spassky just take the pawn? Well, you could argue that, okay, maybe rook f8. Okay, I'm trying to infiltrate here. Okay, maybe a move like king e6, and you don't really have all that much progress. You took a pawn, you can reset, but okay, rook e4 maybe? Rook g8. By the way, this doesn't work because of this, and also because of this. I mean, okay, you just take with check. Yeah, coming back to our variation, it's not all that important. Like rook e4, maybe rook g8 or something. You try to keep defending that, and maybe Spassky just didn't see a way forward, so he tried rook b2, and he's gonna go for the approach of a5 and opening up the b file, and that's exactly what he does. But c4 first by Petrosian, and only now taking the pawn. But is this all that good? Basically, Spassky wanted to arrive at this b8 square, so now he puts a lot of pressure on the bishop. But he can never quite win the bishop, as the pawn would just be going. Like, if rook d7, you just play a3, and you can never take the bishop, because now a2, and all of the sudden, you lose this, you lose that, and you go rook d3, and you're lost here, as white. So instead, Petrosian played rook c8, now going after the c4 pawn, and obviously really nice here by Petrosian. Spassky went after this pawn. I'm sorry, Spassky's with the white pieces. If you take the rook, you're still fine, but you're delaying the progress a little bit. a3 does not do anything anymore because of just rook a4. So yeah, I mean, nice move bishop f6, but doesn't really do anything. Instead of that, Spassky decides to keep the rooks on the board, but this will prove to not be the greatest thing, because now you're gonna have to fight for the advantage all over again, and he gets it. A beautiful move. If you take here, I mean, well, this is great for black. But the thing is, there's a move here for white. There's a move here for white. Can you spot it? It's a really interesting one. Rook f3 check. King e6, and not even now you don't take, not even now, because in this position it's quite easy to draw, because you a pawn and a knight, and you have enough. Rook c4, rook c4, rook c4, and you pin the bishop, and that's it. e4 is the only move, but now you just, for example, go to c3, and that's it. It's GG's. So instead of that, we have e4. And now you attack the bishop. Again, you would like the bishop to take, because now rook b5, right? And for example, e3, but that doesn't really work. Rook e5, and you still get attacked here. So instead of that, bishop f6, Petrosian still tries to keep the chances on. Now he's finally going after the pawn, but somehow here, throughout this whole complications, somewhere in here, Spassky simply lost count of what he has to defend. And after he moved his rook, all of a sudden rook takes on c5, bishop takes on e3. And this is drawable again for Petrosian. Uh-oh. What did he do? Is this just a really long draw? Rook c2, king d1, rook c3. How are you breaking through? I mean, this is literally like a draw. Knight e4, you're attacking the bishop. Okay, you check me. That's it, rook b5, and that's where Petrosian went wrong in his approach. He should have kept his rook and, you know, kept being aggressive with his rook, not with his pieces, with his other pieces, because now the bishop got pinned. And after the bishop gets, wow, what a nice move here, rook d5, and you get that. But now my rook really shines here as Spassky, because there's no other counter to that. And at the end of the day, I'm just gonna find the right positioning for my pieces and make the right trade here. And now I'm just winning here as white, because I just push you back. It's not really all that sophisticated. I mean, I'm just coming in. Maybe I'm taking the pawn also. Maybe I'm just pushing the pawn. Maybe I'm just coming in. I'm just winning here. So really nice comeback by Spassky, and that brings us to game number 13. Now I'm just gonna go to this game a little bit quicker. Colors are still the same. Spassky has the white pieces, and we have now French defense, the Steinitz variation. Again, there's a lot of theory behind this. Queen e2, really popular move even today. Rook to e1, rook to e8. Bishop goes back, and now there are like two moves, either a6, which is played in the game, or queen f7, and after a6, there's one game that continues knight b1, but in this game, Spassky went a3, and okay, we have a completely different game with queen f7, and now b4, sorry, bishop comes here, we have a trade, and we have the following middle game. Knight goes back, queen goes back, e5. Okay, how do you begin to even look at this position? Well, of course, e4 would be a little bit annoying, right? So you play f3, you stop e4, right? Because you don't really want to get that pushed back with your bishop. So you're gonna be looking for something here, a queen trade, because now your rook is quite active and white doesn't really have a lot. And maybe you can sneak in at some point e4. Maybe you can do something like that. Rook f2, g6, and rook comes over to d2. Okay, now you're gonna put pressure on that. Knight b6, you defend. Rook comes back to the e file. You attack. You come back. Okay, knight reroute. Good. b5, not allowing any more pressure, and simply c3. So now all the sides have basically chose their setup. How are they gonna go forward? Rook f7, and it's simply just like a maneuvering game. Bishop goes back to b3, which is a really nice square because it puts pressure on this d5 pawn finally. And basically knight e3, knight b6 is something that was inevitable. So Petrosian tries to guard that, maybe also knight c4 in the future. The thing with knight c4 is it's not all that profitable right now because of the pressure on this e pawn. So instead of that, you have to go back with the knight, right? Obviously the knight here, when it moved, it uncovered this attack. So you go back with the knight. Rook e3 and h4. So white is not really able to do anything. h3, not allowing any weakening of the structure, and now rook f6. But now finally Spassky finds something, like a little bit to spark something here at least. Knight to d4, as the pawn is pinned, the rook, and bishop goes back, now a4. Rook d8, knight comes back to e2, b takes on a4, bishop takes, knight to b6, bishop b3, and e4. Knight d4, and now rook d1. And you see, Spassky somehow remaneuvered the pieces in a way, like he forced Petrosian to play this e4 move. If you would have played rook f5, then g4, h takes on g3, knight takes on g3, rook f7. And okay, rook takes on f3 would have been played. And by the way, this is crazy. Rook f7, for example, right? You can capture, king captures. I mean, this whole position is crazy. But now 94 again, playing on the pins, and somehow white is slightly better here. There are definitely a lot of variations. I'm not gonna go through all of them. But just so you know, the position is really tense and really interesting. And Spassky simply found the better setup here. Takes, knight 6, defended by the bishop. Knight comes in, tries to get in the way of that, but knight comes back, attacks the bishop. Rook defends that. Rook e1, you attack the pawn. King comes in, and that's it. Rook a5, you threaten some discoveries. Rook gets attacked, but now, I mean, you don't have any trouble. What a nice move, knight b3. I mean, you can just take right away, definitely. But knight b3 to go knight to d4 here. You don't really care about that. You go knight d2 now. You don't even have to go knight d4. You just put pressure on that, and now you win the pawn. And that's just the meta at the highest level. You win a pawn, and that's it. I mean, I'm sorry if the coverage for this game in particular was not that good. It was just simply a really long game. Again, just like the other one, showing how complex these battles are between top players. And here, Petrosian is gonna resign because it's basically irrelevant what he does. Like, he can, if he wants to hang on to this pawn, like at some point, okay, this is gonna happen, and then okay, I'm just gonna push. Maybe I'm gonna push c4. It's the moment you try to step in here, maybe I do this. I mean, it's quite lost, and it's not that hard to do. But the final game that I'm going to show you is game number 20. This is basically make or break. So the match is tied, and there are like 5 games left. This is game number 20, and it's just an Imzo Indian. But Petrosian has the white pieces, Spassky has the black pieces. Keep in mind, Spassky is just coming off of a win. He's just gonna play a chill variation, the Bernstein variation, where I mean it's equal, right? E4, C4, what a nice move. You cannot take this with pick up the bishop. Bishop comes back to E2. You defend the pawn now, but white is slightly better. Okay, let's face it, white is slightly better. Rook b5, white has all the prospects. The question is, can Petrosian put enough pressure so that Spassky will crack? Bishop d4, I mean, again, setting up the pieces in a nice way. Queen to a2, wrong arrow, but you know, just again pressuring here, getting out of the way here with the king. Spassky, bishop back to f1, h6, h3, playing the waiting game, but now a5. Because the thing is, if you take now, I can take rook takes, for example, rook takes, knight takes. Now I can take the pawn. I can take this. I have this threat. It's not so happy suddenly for black. So of course, rook to b7 is played. But now just Petrosian plays this really simple. He attacks the pawn one more time with the queen, and now again you cannot really pick up the pawn because of rook to a6, and now the bishop is attacked, and if you move the bishop you lose the rook. So of course Petrosian comes back, defends the rook, but now Spassky slides his rook out, and he found some counterplay. Rook a2, queen b4, but here he goes really wrong. Instead of going for something like rook to a4 and make the queen go to an uncomfortable position, at least, you know, for example, before playing rook to b8, let's say rook to b2 to guard everything, and then maybe rook back to a8 to keep everything here under pressure, bishop d4, rook e8, and now like queen b4, maybe rook a or rook e to b8, and then if you don't want to repeat moves, there's also a really nice variation here where you do this, king h7, and then this position is definitely a lot better than what he got in the game. I mean, obviously with chess the possibilities are endless, but just to focus on one, bishop f2, and then here the position was slowly going astray because Petrosian just got his bishop out of the way, and not only that, he infiltrated with the queen. Rook to b7 would have been like the next move regardless, and you cannot really stop that. You would just get shredded here, and at the end of the day you would lose. I'm coming in with the other rook, I'm just making a lot of chaos, and that's why Petrosian tried this move right here. Also, by the way, I'm just attacking the bishop, and the bishop doesn't really have somewhere to go to defend the knight. That's basically the whole problem. And if you try to play something like that, I'm just taking the queen, so no trouble here. So Spassky sees that, he tries to sacrifice here the rook basically, but there is no counterplay, and he just resigns here because he sees that it's pointless. I mean, this is one last thing that you can try, but at this point Spassky knows that he's gonna lose this endgame down full exchange. And yeah, well, this game was a little bit longer, but I hope the games were quite interesting. Petrosian went on to win game number 22, essentially securing the match at 12-10, but they decided to play on the last two games anyways, and the final score was 12.5 to 11.5. So finally the champion truly beat the challenger. He did not only retain the title. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Kowalsky